Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video we're going to be talking about how to play the piano by ear. So playing by ear is where you're working out how to play something on the piano without any sheet music and just by listening. You can compose by ear by listening to what sounds good, but most typically, in my experience, when referring to learning something by ear, we usually mean working something out by listening to it and then trying to reproduce it. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, and we're going to work through an example step by step. If you are interested in working songs out by ear on the piano, then make sure you stick around. So for this example, we're going to use one of the songs that I produced in a previous video, just so you can get the idea of the process. And if you want to go and see that original song, then you can go and see that here. Now obviously because I made this particular song, I can remember how I played it, but the process is still the same no matter what song you are interested in learning. So the first thing we are going to do is just look at the bass notes. When trying to work out any song by ear, the easiest thing to hear is the lower notes. And you should pick a section of the song to start with where the bass notes are quite clear, if that's possible. So what I would suggest doing is start by trying to sing the low notes or try and sing them in your head, just to identify what the notes actually are. Then what you need to do is just try and find the first note on the piano. Once you've found this, the other bass notes become a little bit easier to find because they'll be near where you just played that note. And you need to be looking at trying to find just a phrase of the music first. If it's a pop song, then they tend to be quite repetitive anyway, so you'll find that those notes come up lots of times. And obviously, the more you practice at doing this, the easier it gets to just find them. So now that you have a phrase of the song with just the bass notes, it's time to work out what the key is. Now don't be scared by this if you have no idea what a key is. All a key is it's the name of a scale, and a scale is just a set of notes that are used. There are 15 different major keys, and those are here. And in any song, they will be in one of these keys. So the next step is to work out which key this song is in. And the bass notes can help us with this. So depending on what you're trying to play, you may have 3 or 4 bass notes worked out by now. And all of these notes have to be in the scale. So looking at the 15 keys, you can already narrow it down to only the keys that include the notes that you've already played. Now it's important at this moment to know what the notes on the piano are called. So you can work this out by knowing that next to the 2 black notes is C. Then the white keys just go up in alphabetical order up to G. So you get C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and so on. And the notes just repeat up and down the piano. Now for the black notes, if you're going up from C by 1 key to the nearest black note, that's called a sharp, because sharp means 1 up. So this is called a C sharp. However, it is also called a D flat, because flat means 1 down, and this particular key is also 1 note down from D. So now that you know what the notes are called on the piano and you've found the bass notes, you just have to work out which key fits these notes the best. And you can do this by playing through all of the scales that include these notes and work out which one fits best just by listening to it. Don't worry if this is difficult, because this is perhaps the hardest part about working these out. But over time this does get a lot easier as well. So now we know what set of notes we're going to be using, what scale we're using, and we know the bass notes for a section of the song. The next thing to do is work out the chords. So chords are mostly made up of 3 notes, and this is called a triad. And you can work out a triad by playing note 1, which is the note of the bass note, and then notes 3 and 5 as well from the scale. So an example of this would be if your note was C and you were playing C major, which is all the white notes, note 1 would be C, note 3 would be E, and note 5 would be G. In the key of this particular song, we're in the key of B, so note 1 is B, note 3 is D sharp, and note 5 is F sharp. So all you need to do now is play the chord that goes with the bass note that you've already worked out. And once you've worked this out, if it still doesn't sound right, that might be because one of the bass notes isn't actually the bottom note of the chord. It could be the 3rd note of the chord or the 5th note of the chord. So if a chord doesn't sound right, then you can always check that as well. However, in the case of this song, they are actually all chords that fit with the bass note. Okay, so now that you have the bass notes, you have the chords that go with the bass note, and you know all of the notes in the scale for this particular song, we need to use those notes in the scale to work out what the melody is. So because I know that this particular song uses B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and then we're back to B again to do the rest of the piano. I know that each note in the melody has to be one of these notes. So the best way to approach this is by just playing a very, very small bit of the song and just playing each of the notes in the scale until you find the one that fits. This way you can start to build up and memorize how the melody goes. Once you have worked out the melody for this small section that we're working on, you need to work out where the chords change with the melody. And once you've done this, then you can put them together and you have a basic outline of what the song might sound like. So the last step is to embellish the song, or make it sound more interesting. Unless you're playing a slow ballad type song, you're probably not going to want to just play the chord once and then play the melody with it. You're going to want to make it sound more interesting and more varied. So this is the fun part, because you can come up with lots of different rhythms to play the chords with. You can also spread out the chords across the piano. You can start by playing the song really high up and slow on the keys, and then build it up so it's more thick textured for the chorus or something like that. The more songs that you work out, the more best practices that you will come up with as to how you like to approach songs. And the best part about playing something by ear is that there is no one else that's going to play it the same as you do. I think the important thing to note here is that it does help to have just a little bit of theory knowledge about how chords are structured and about how scales work. But once you have just a tiny bit of knowledge, you can actually go a long way with learning by ear. So here is a quick recap. The first thing we did was work out the bass notes by listening to the song. After that, we then worked out which scale those bass notes best fit into. Then we worked out what note 1, 3 and 5 in the scale was from the bass notes. Double checking that if it didn't sound right, then it might be because the bass note is actually note number 3 or note number 5. Then once we had the overall structure, we then used the scale to work out the melody, and then we worked out where the chords fit in that melody. After that, then finally we embellished it and made it more interesting by adding different rhythms and changing where on the piano we might play it. If you have any extra thoughts on how to play by ear, or you find it difficult and need some help with playing by ear, then leave a comment. And if you found this video useful, then hit the like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.